Kadoma, which is 2 hours from the capital city. And my uncle was the first person to get to the hospital when the police found him at home. And I was asking him, I keep seeing these images of people singing, but then when I see these images, I see them from a vantage point, like I'm looking down and I can see people singing, but I'm also sleeping, lying down in bed. Did anybody come and sing for me when I was in hospital? And he said, oh yeah, the church people came from my grandmother's church, and they came to put some prayers for your life because you were critical, and they were singing. And it's the music that takes me back to that place, and that gives me just a little bit of an image of what happened during this time. So I recovered, and the first thing that I saw when I came out of the coma was the light. This is how Edith WeUtonga was born. Utonga is the first light of day in the Shona language of Zimbabwe. And I chose to be called Edith of Dawn, the first light of day, because of what I'd been through and because of what I wanted my life to be every time. That let it be the first light of day to anybody that I'm going to interact with, to anybody who is going to cross my path or come to me for assistance. And so that's how the brand Edith WeUtonga was birthed. And from it, through my journey as a musician, launching this brand from the year 2010, I have managed to interact with a lot of young musicians that I believe I have impacted heavily upon through my music, through assisting them, getting their music out there, getting them started. And music is the the pivot of everything that happens within my life. So that is testimony number one. So testimony number two happened when I gave birth to my son, Madalitso, who is turning 9 in October. Madalitso was born with a heart defect. And when he turned 5 months, the doctors told us he needed to have open heart surgery. Open heart surgery was not going to happen in Zimbabwe because the facilities couldn't handle giving him an open heart surgery. And the options we had were anywhere but Zimbabwe. Again, it was the music that brought people together. I remember the late Dr. Oliver Mtukudzi, the late Chuoniso Maraire coming, to my aid when they had the call that I needed help, and doing a performance, trying to raise money for my son to be taken to India for treatment. I remember auctioning my guitar. Here's the music coming in again, auctioning my guitars just so that I could take my son to India for treatment. And yet it was that piece of me, that music, that identifies Edith as the brand, that identifies me as the character when I'm singing or when I'm going away on performances. And I opted to just auction my tools of trade in order to save the life of my child. But the beauty about it is that for the people that came to these fundraisers, the people that bought the guitar brought it back. And they told me, look, we are supporting you and would like for you to carry on playing the music. But this is our way of showing you that you are safe, you've got us around you. So how we interact with our fans, the people around us that listen to our music, also impact heavily on the events that happen in our lives, whether directly or indirectly. I remember corporates coming together and the other buying air tickets, the other one paying for the total surgery. Econet paid for the total surgery for my son in India. CBZ coming through and paying for the air tickets for me and my son to go to India. And why? I suppose it wasn't just like any other case, but looking at who is this person? It's Edith WeUtonga. She's a musician. We've listened to her music, and this is the best way that we can support her. And in all this, I suppose it's during a time that I would say I was going against the odds. things were tough. When I was involved in an accident, Zimbabwe was really tough. And we were going through a really, really, really tough time. There was no medication, there was no money in the banks, there were strikes, there were shortages in the supermarkets. But the accident happened, and it was my music and the people that I've worked around, the people that I've interacted with that came through for me. Someone opening their surgery at 1 a.m., their pharmacy, to make sure that I have the medication that was required that the hospital did not have. It was through the music that I managed to get the support that I got to make sure that my son got to India for treatment. My third testimony, they're going to be so fast, but I'm just trying to show you that sometimes uh, it's things that we term simple that carry us through tough times. We are going through a tough time right now in most places because of COVID-19. COVID-19 has happened and left a lot of businesses down, but more so for the performing artists because we rely heavily upon live performances. And for me, COVID-19 came when I just arrived in the UK and to pursue my studies for my master's degree in music and development. Everything, kicked off very well. I was blessed from getting a scholarship through the Kenan Collins Trust. And this scholarship, when I talk about against all odds and when your ancestors come together as African people, we have what we call amadlozi, midzimu yedu, and you put forward your requests to your ancestors that will take it forward to Msikavanhu, who is Mwari, who is God. Everything that I did really happened at a time when everyone was asking me, but how did it happen? Did you know someone? What happened? But my scholarship story happened because it was at a time when everything, you'd wake up and there's no power at home, there's no water. You spend the whole day and there's no power. And when the power gets back, when everybody's maybe waking up and you're preparing a meal for the kids tomorrow morning as they go to school and for the day, that's the time that I'll sit on my laptop and start searching for a place where I'm going to study, searching for a scholarship. And when the scholarship happened, I was a reserve candidate. A reserve candidate means somebody else had probably got the scholarship and I was the person that was most likely going to get it. In beauty pageants, there's the queen and then there's the first princess. I think I was the first princess then. But I don't know what happened. And I got the call that, you know what, the scholarship is yours if you want it. And I grabbed that opportunity. And when COVID-19 happened, I was in London, so far from home, away from my family, away from the band that I always perform with my music, and in residence at school. And this is what happens. It is the music, that pulled me through. Listening to the music and just going around trying to find my footing in this new place and asking my God, asking my ancestors, talking to my father, because my father is a firm believer of tradition, and asking him, I am so far away. What if something happens to my husband and the children will be all on their own? And my father said, but we're all here. Nothing is going to happen. Just know that you are there because you're meant to be there at this particular time. And so it's the music that pulled me through across everything else that was happening during that time. I remember, walking around the yard and not going out of the gate for the first 100 days, not being able to go out and just staying in and just listening to music. If I play a particular song right now, I will remember this was this day and this is what I was doing. And this is what was going through my head. My fears, my anxieties, every song identifies with whatever emotion that I was going through at that time, whatever fears that I was going through at that time. And it was also during that time in January that I lost my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, a woman who appears so strongly in my thesis. And she died in Kadoma, and I wasn't there to express myself, to mourn with my family, and to be able to connect spiritually with the family. I was not there. And that was a very, a turmoil for me because I could not, I think even up to this day, I have not been able to get closure over the passing of my grandmother, because it happened when I was so far away. But what I have managed to do is, as I start to see this place that I am in as a home, as a place where I can call home, because I can, and this is where I'm going to be staying and living with my family. I have used music as a tool, to get me to mark my territory, to make sure that in this space that I'm in, this is the place that identifies with me. Now, as I seek other opportunities, I've completed my studies in the UK at the SOAS University of London. It is the music again that I tend to. Looking for opportunities to perform, looking for opportunities to teach, looking for opportunities to see what I can do in this new community that I'm in, using my music, the influences that music brings, the force that music, has to unite people, to get people to sit down and talk, to seek harmony, to seek healing. In these places that we stay in, and virtually reaching out to people and say, look, this is where I am at. How best can we work together? I find all these are a testimony of what power music has. I think my fifth testimony would be a testimony that I will take us to Morocco. I was scheduled to perform in Morocco for the Visa for Music concert. And while I was traveling from the UK to go to Morocco, I found out as I was in France that my band had been denied flight in France, in South Africa. And I had about 45 minutes in transit before I connected to Morocco. I've never cried so much, because here we are going to a festival called Visa for Music, and my band, with all their visas, were denied to board the plane in South Africa. And these are artistic people, these are musicians who have nothing really a crime on them. But just to be asked, okay, these letters that you have to exempt you from having the actual visa to go to Morocco need to be verified. And they were verified 10 minutes after the plane had taken off. My performance in Morocco was not with my band, but it was with a band that I had met less than 24 hours before my performance. Now, the tide is going north, and I'm going south. And this performance must go on. And there's just me, my bass guitar. Air France has lost my bass guitar somewhere in South Africa. They've left it. And the manager has arrived without the bass guitar. And I still have to perform. And I met amazing people from Cameroon. Music brings people together. Music is an international language that, even if I speak in Shona and I take a baby who is French speaking or who is Portuguese speaking, and I sing Chinyarara kuchema chinyarara mwana, mwana anochema anochemera urudo, mwana anochema nenzara, euwe mwana, euwe mwana nyarara kuchema. The child will be comforted and they will go to sleep, not because they understood what I'm singing, but because of the soothing texture of voice, the soothing, feeling that this music is bringing to them. I met amazing people in Cameroon, from Cameroon in Morocco. And this one guy said, okay, I'll find you people that will help you. But they have a performance, so we have to wait for them to be done first. So I met these guys at 8 o'clock, as we're trying to get to the rehearsal room, we stood in a place where there were taxis passing by, and yet we still failed to get a taxi to get to the rehearsal room for the first hour into the rehearsal. By the time we got a taxi, we got to the rehearsal room 30 minutes before the booked time had finished. We got into the rehearsal room, and the rehearsal room owner said, okay, I'll give you an extra hour. And for 1 hour, 30 minutes, in a room with men speaking French and me speaking English, and so much anxiety is going on that the little French that I understood sometimes was just failing me. It was the music that did the talking. It was the melodies that did the talking. It was the rhythm that did the talking. And by the time that we were done with the first 1 hour, the 1 hour, 30 minutes that they'd given us, some music was playing. And I was quite confident, getting my confidence back that something is going to happen. We're going to be able to play. So out of the 5 songs that we needed to have practiced, we managed to practice 3. And we left the next 2 songs to be practiced the next day. The following day, we had just 2 hours. And in those 2 hours, the guys had to catch 2 more songs. And in those 2 songs, remember, these are totally new rhythms to them. I play contemporary, traditional Zimbabwean music. That will go da 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 da, and the drummer had to write notes down, and try and memorize everything. So he would listen to the song first 5 minutes and everyone is just folding their hands, and he'd write down his notes. But when he took his drumsticks to play, it was like he's played the music before. So music brings in a very unique way of getting communities to come together. Music does what so many have failed to do in dialogue. And that is why, using my background as a music and development degree holder, I realized that there's so much that we can do using music, because it connects and melts and thaws and just get people interacting where one didn't even expect people to interact. It gets people to heal when they listen to music, and they are feeling some sort of way. They're going through a heartbreak. They're going through a loss of someone that they love, whether by death or by them moving on with their lives without them. Music connects us. And in all the experiences that I have gone through, I've always turned back to music. So when I'm feeling low, when I am excited, when I am trying to think up of something, of a project or something that I need to do that is something new, I'm thinking music, because it is the music that will get me from point A to point B. And looking back, I'm realizing that if we were to use music more, listen, nurture, educate, advise, I think we create better communities. We create communities that I think listen more to what people genuinely feel, because that can be expressed through music, things that sometimes cannot be said using the word of mouth. And so that is why I've done projects with Doctors Without Borders, Belgium in Zimbabwe, where we came together. I managed to consult for them and created a project against sexual gender-based violence. And this project basically just brought the musicians to come and speak to the people about things that communities rarely talk about. Sex, it's taboo. Negotiating sex, it's taboo. Talking about women being sexually harassed even in their marital homes or by people that they are close to, that are family. music breaks that barrier. I remember we went to one community called Caledonia, and an old, wise old woman said, this is the right way. Tell them, because it is happening every day in our communities. And so we would travel in different communities, having outreach programs and talking about the things that challenging communities on things that normally people would not sit down and talk about. But when you hear people perform, when you leave that space, you get to talk about it and say, okay, maybe asking your children, what do you understand about this? This is the same way that I remember when we did a project with the Traffic Safety Council of Zimbabwe. Again, we were talking about road rage, trying to end road carnage, because so many people die on the roads due to so many things that the drivers do wrong, that rules have been broken. And again, it was musicians coming together and putting this project together and making sure that the message gets through. So if someone is listening to the music, they're getting entertained, they're getting educated, and the message rings. And for me, having gone through a road traffic accident, it's speaking to me and things that I've gone through, not by hearsay, but things that I have personally gone through. And again, lately, I've been involved in a project that talks about mental health. In Zimbabwe, let me speak for Zimbabwe. When one is going through depression, let's say it's postnatal depression, um, the community will label it something else, but not postnatal depression. We have a term, usehlanya, akupenga. These are terms that are used to label, stereotyping people that are going through some mental condition, mental situations that are happening because of whatever they are going through. So communities tend to be quick to label it something and not want to clinically look at it, or clinically, give someone an opportunity to get checked and people to get to understand what it is they're going through. The youth, in a space where, for example, it's almost a whole year and a half where communities have been staying at home. The drug abuse has levels have also gone high. And so you find that there's so much on mental health that we need to address as communities. I'm sure in your community, wherever you are, you find that there are issues of drug abuse that we need to address. What better way, than to use the arts, than to use music to communicate? Because sometimes, like in Zimbabwe, you find that the youth are also identifying with certain musicians and being able to express what they're going through. And so the hardships that people go through in communities is better expressed artistically. And I believe that the more we're open to giving the arts a chance, particularly when I'm looking at Zimbabwe, sometimes my heart breaks because I think the arts are always the last consideration. Right now, a lot is happening. Some sectors have opened, people are going to work, but the arts are the least thing for people to consider. And they have also suffered the most, as anybody else in the community. The difference being that which I call my office is shut down and I cannot perform. And so it's a time now to again start adapting, to new things. How best can we do this? Develop new spaces to perform in order to still sustain and be able to perform and still be able to be creative, without necessarily dropping it all to start looking at other things in order to make a living. So looking at everything that I've been through in the last 20 years that I've been in the industry, everything is about consistency, perseverance, and as a woman, putting in 250% where others are putting in 100, making sure that everything that you do is timed, programmed, planned. You have a strategy on how you're going to do these things, because without that strategy, nothing will give. I had to plan that I family, go for my 3 year study to get my honors degree. And from there, again, I had planned this is the vision. So, as an artist, I suppose, like in any other business, you must have a vision. It can't be something that you say, I'm doing it for the fun of it, or because I believe, it's a way to make quick money. But there must be a plan. So what is your plan wherever you are? And once that plan is put into motion, put it down. It's a business plan. What is going to happen? How are you going to do it? Who do you need to consult to do those things? But above all, who are you as an individual? I am Edith WeUtonga, Maposa in my tradition, Chikanda Mina, the porcupine. That's the animal that represents me and my clan. And how do I communicate with those that are my clan? How do I then communicate with my God to be able to put everything into focus, to be able to go on and do the things that I do as an individual to succeed? Whenever I stand up and speak, somebody must listen. But am I doing things that people, when I stand up to speak, they listen? As a union leader, I believe there's so much that needs to be done. And being a Zimbabwe Musicians Union leader has taught me a lot about listening to people, about looking at things from the outside in, to be able to understand the situations and circumstances that we are in as a people, as artists in Zimbabwe. And I believe there's power in collaboration. And so when we come together as musicians from Zimbabwe, from Bangkok, from Cameroon, from Uganda, from Kenya, I think it makes us stronger, and it makes us a force to reckon with, looking at the things that we want to achieve. And so as a mother, as a wife, as now a master music and development, I believe there's so much that I can do, that I want to do, that people out there will find attractive through using my music as a tool, through looking at what music is in this new society, for example, that I'm living in, and how this society can benefit. So, in short, in these 30 minutes, this is me, Mama Bass, Edith WeUtonga, and you can go through my website, edithweutonga.co.za, and just find out more about the work that I am doing. Because my son went through a heart surgery in India, I am a founding trustee of a trust in Zimbabwe called Zimheart Trust. And so that again is something that I'm using my passion in music to make sure that we give attention to issues such as that, because again, there's a lot of people who have heart conditions in Zimbabwe and wherever you are that may need us, to work together to make a difference.
Thank you so much. Let me go back to the gallery so we can be together.
Uh-huh.
And then we can say, Dine kutenda Jesu. Dine kutenda Baba.
Oh my gosh, you know that song.
Dine kutenda Jesu. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dine kutenda Baba.
Oh, wow.
Dine kutenda Jesu.
Dine kutenda musiki.
Dine kutenda Baba. Dine kutenda Jesu.
Oh my gosh, you know that song. The tender kani. Oh, no kutipa mvura yakawanda.
Emburenga inae.
Yes.
Bakoma kwa mutare.
Yeah.
Asira pinduka. Shocho. Rachema. Emburenga inae. Makoma kwa mutami.
Oh, wow.
Edith, thank you so much for bringing the message and the voice of Zimbabwe and arts, culture, development, activism, and the power of arts as a transformative tool for the communities around the globe. Because this is not only about Zimbabwe, as you mentioned, it's a global situation, and we are taking over a situation that has been neglected historically. transgressions, divisions. And I think art is now playing an active role in changing mindsets, you know, and promoting unity in diversity. Thank you so much for being here today with us in these 30 minutes. That is short time, but you have managed to deliver a very profound and meaningful experiences and message to everyone who is following this page. And now I will ask you for a last message to close this conversation. And please remember Edith WeUtonga. You can see some of her video clips, her short bio in my page. And as Edith mentioned, you can find her in Instagram, in YouTube. You can also find her in Facebook and in WhatsApp. So follow her, learn about her projects, initiatives, and upcoming activities. So thank you once again, Edith. And I leave you with the last message to close our conversation.
Thank you so much, Wani. It was such an amazing opportunity. 30 minutes, packed 30 minutes. Well, I just want to say that to the women out there. If you have an opportunity, a candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. So a woman with an opportunity can light a candle of another woman, and in turn, they will light another candle. It is time, I believe, that we look into ourselves as a community of women to support one another, to grow stronger women, because as long as we develop one another, we're able to make a greater impact. Let's start opening our own doors. Let's create doors where they are not, and let's make the world a better place.
Thank you, Eddie. So Women of the World Talk and Act, Wanayran Alvarez Moving Cultures, Promoting Unity and Diversity, welcomes and say goodbye to Edith WeUtonga from Zimbabwe. Tomorrow, we are going to have a conversation with Marianela Sierra, Executive Director of Funlubi, a foundation that is supporting patients with kidney failure conditions. So she's going to be telling us about how this initiative was coming into life and what is happening at the moment in Honduras, Central America. So thank you, Edith. A big kiss. It's always a pleasure to see you, and hasta la vista.